Okay, that was a lesson learned the hard way. I had worked these two problems and I didn't hit the record button. So let's work through these two problems again. Okay, so these guys are a little bit harder, and you may not exactly know why yet, but you'll see in just a minute. Okay, first thing, make the value of A1. Already done. Step 2, move C over. So we're going to add our 5. So it's going to be x squared minus 3x equals 5. Now, you can quickly kind of figure out like, oh, figuring out that mystery number in my head is not quite as easy as it has been. So we're going to go over here and we're going to follow this formula. We're going to take half of b and square it. So we're going to take half of negative 3. So channeling your middle school, hopefully you remember half and then negative 3 over 1. So that's negative 3 over 2, and we're going to square it. And so that's going to give me 9/4. So I get to add 9/4 to both sides. I do not want you to change it to a decimal. I do not want you to change it to a mixed number. It needs to stay 9/4. So if I add 9/4 to the left side, then I need to add 9/4 to the right side. So sometimes the thought of factoring the left side with a fraction can be a bit daunting, but it's not going to be so bad. Like, what times what gives me x squared, x and x? What times what gives me 9? What times what gives me 4? So that's going to be, what times what gives me 9 is 3. What times what gives me 4 is 2. So it's going to be 3 over 2 and 3 over 2. And it'll have to be negative, negative. And lo and behold, that is x minus 3 over 2 squared. Sometimes people wonder like if that in fact gives you the right middle term, and it does always give you the right middle term. You don't even really have to check your middle term. Now on the right side, I have to find a common denominator of 4, for which the second guy already has a common denominator of 4. And the first guy needs to get multiplied by 4. So 20 over 4 plus 9 over 4 gives me 29 over 4. Now the hard part's done. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. So that gives me x minus 3/2 equals plus or minus. The square root of 29 will not break down, and the square root of 4 is 2. And so then you're going to just add your 3/2. So that gives me 3/2 plus or minus the square root of 29 over 2, which is totally an acceptable answer. I will tell you though, like on the ACT test, if they have the same denominator of 2, more often than not, you will see it written like this. So I'll give you full credit for this answer. I'll give you full credit for that answer, but this is going to be the answer you see on an ACT test. Okay, so let's try this guy. So this is our first guy where the value of a is not 1. And then you add to that it's also out of order. So let me fix that first. So let me scoot the 3x over. Okay, so now it looks like a normal quadratic. So first thing we have to do is we have to make the value of a equal to 1. So completing the square only works when the a value is 1. So how do I make the a value 1? I have to divide everything by 2. So that's going to give me x squared. That's going to give me minus 3/2 x. That's going to give me plus 1/2. That's going to give me 0, because 0 divided by 2 is still 0. So now I have to move my c over, and I have to add my mystery number. So I have to take half of b. So half of negative 3/2 is negative 3/4. But that's not my mystery number. I have to square both sides. So I have to add 9/16 to both sides. So I'm going to add 9/16 to the left side and add 9/16 to the right side. Now, don't get freaked out over factoring the left side. It always factors easier than you think. So what gives me x squared is x and x. What gives me 9/16? Well, what gives me 9 is 3. What gives me 16 is 4. So it's minus 3 over 4, minus 3 over 4, which I'm going to write as x minus 3 over 4 squared. On the right side, I got to find a common denominator of 16, for which the guy 9 already has it. So I got to multiply this guy by 8. So I have negative 8 sixteenths plus 9 sixteenths, which